Hello everyone, I'm bringing you a video today looking at some East German audio cassettes, music cassettes basically, with one exception. One is a recordable cassette tape, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. I thought this would be interesting, and the majority of these are from Western bands, and I imagine they were probably produced for export, but also it's my understanding that the regime in East Germany did allow some music from Western bands to be distributed in limited sort of releases, but it allowed for something of a safety valve. You know, there was some access to Western culture, vetted Western culture for sure, but Western culture. And in that regard, they're quite interesting from my perspective. These have all come from Germany, so obviously they may well have been sold in West Germany, and that's how they've ended up for sale in Germany, obviously today or recently. They've all come from German eBay. But as I say, it's my understanding that they were produced and sold in East Germany to a limited degree, and there are German prices on these, or East German prices specifically, and we'll have a look at that as well. You may be wondering what's the point of just looking at these. There is one cassette from an East German band, Pond, a synth band, and I do plan to play that in full in another video using a vintage cassette player, and that will be appearing soon after this video, possibly the same day. Obviously the others, the music will be very well known to most, I'm sure, and indeed the album we're going to listen to from Pond on cassette is available on YouTube already in sort of high quality recordings. But I think there's something to be said for listening to an original East German cassette of an East German band. So that's basically going to come up as a separate video. In this video itself, we'll just be looking at these cassettes, looking at the manufacturers, and looking at the details of the labels and so forth, and the pricing as well. So that's what we're going to have a look at now. Right, so here we have the various cassettes we're going to look at. There's no real rhyme or reason to the order in which we're going to look at these, other than we're going to look at this one first and this one last. So the first one to have a look at here is a recordable cassette from Ovo, which was a company which also produced film, camera film, which makes sense, of course. It's a K60. I believe that would mean it would be 60-minute recordable tape. And you can see Magnetband cassette, low noise there. Obviously the intention these would be for export, I believe. And you can see here, I've not actually listened to this as yet, but it looks like it's never been used. As you can see, it's wound right back to the blank part of the cassette without any magnetization. You can see there. I realise there'll be people watching this who aren't familiar with audio cassettes. I am, because I sort of saw the tail end of them in the 90s. As CDs came in, which was an interesting period, interesting transition period, but obviously it's a magnetic cassette tape. The cassette is obviously what contains the tape, and you have a blank section before you actually get to the brown magnetized section of the tape, and this is wound right back. You have a felt pad in there which allows for the head to press against this and read the magnetic tape. So that's the mechanics of these. This particular example is screwed together. Many of those we'll look at are just sort of pressed together, but screwed together examples were very common at one time. You can see here, made in GDR, and this is made by VEB Chemiefaserwerk Friedrich Engels in Premitz. So that's the People's Factory, basically the People's Combine that this was made at. You can see here you have a measurement in the centre there, which was fairly typical of these, and that's the minutes available, I believe. So we're missing the label off the back, unfortunately, but nevertheless, quite happy to pick this up. It was not expensive, and it's just another little bit of East German ephemera, and you can see the EVP is actually 20 marks, so quite expensive really. But yeah, again, you have the manufacturer details on the back there. So it is 60 minutes, two sides, each of 30 minutes there. As you can see, the total recording time being 60 minutes. The first music cassette we'll have a look at here is Creedence Clearwater Revival from Amiga, and this came in a cream box. These are, I assume, are all the original boxes these came in. You can see this actually has a date stamp on it, so it's interesting, a Sony HF or Hi-Fi, I believe, sticker over there, and then actually has a purple rubber ink stamp of 3rd January, I think, 3 January 1986 there. And you can see here, this is actually, this is side 1 and side 2 there. Interestingly, it's had a sticker placed over here with B, and a sticker placed over here as well. So as I said, I haven't played this one, so I don't know whether this has been re-recorded or something at some point. I don't know what the details of the Sony stickers and everything are on this, but it is originally an Amiga product. You can see this one is made at VEB Deutsche Schallplatten Berlin, DDR. So that's the factory this was made at. Clean's Career Author Revival, of course, you've got the Amiga stereo designation there, and then the number, the part number or the item number. At the bottom here, there's a different one of those for each of these we'll look at. And you can see here the songs which are on this cassette. Various details there. We have the price here of 23 marks 60 Pfennig. So again, quite expensive really. And we'll pop that back in there. That's Creedence Clearwater Revival. Next we have Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. It's quite an eclectic mix of music here. You see the spine there. Again, we have Amiga stereo and the number there, and the same manufacturer. Obviously, some of the songs are listed here, but we'll have a look inside at the paper jacket and its entirety. Open it out so you can see. And here is the cassette. This has some writing on it for some reason. Not quite sure why. This is somewhat dirty and has been used. I've not been through and around these or tested them all. But you have a pen mark on the other side as well, as you can see. This is somewhat discoloured, but again, interesting screwed together example there, as you can see. Put that one back in its case, and we'll have a look at the next one along, which is Jimi Hendrix. Again, all of these are Amiga, though this one's labelled slightly differently on the spine, but you still have that item number there, as you can see, and the details at the back of the paper jacket there. You can see the same manufacturer as we've seen previously, this time in an orange case. Slightly different design. We'll just have a quick look at the inside of the paper jacket there again, as you can see. The various details there of the tracks that are on this, and the cassette itself. This again screwed together, but this has little flathead screws rather than the Phillips head we had on the previous example. Just noting a little detail there. And side two, again, a little bit discoloured this, but about halfway through being played as well. So whoever was last listening to this didn't bother to rewind it and just left it where it was, which is common with a cassette to do so. Put it inside one facing out. I will at some point get around to trying all of these, but this is the one we'll be listening to, and we'll talk a bit about that in just a minute. The very best of Beach Boys. So you can see we actually have some writing on the spine there of the paper label, and then we do have the same manufacturer again for all of these Amiga cassettes. Seems to be the standard place where all of these were manufactured. You can see here, this again has some ink pen writing on it, K11 on both sides. So don't have any knowledge of the significance of that, but it's there. And you can see details of the cassette there again. And the paper, I didn't show you this first, I normally do, but the inside of the paper label there, as you can see. We actually have details of the recording licensing there, the bottom left. So the two other Western bands we have here are Supertramp and the Beatles. So Supertramp, first of all, we'll have a look at the outside. The actual cover of this is in landscape rather than portrait, of course. You have the spine there, again with the specific Amiga number there for this, and then the details on the back there, the same manufacturer again, as you can see. Open this up and we'll have a look at the paper insert inside of that there. Again, we have the price there, 23 marks 60 Pfennig, so as we've said before, quite expensive really. And the cassette itself, which is it has no screws in this. Oh, and it does have screws on the other side, sorry, my apologies, but another one with the flathead, the slot head screws, side one there and side two. So put that back in there. And then the Beatles. You see the cover there again in a landscape rather than portrait, mono in this instance rather than stereo, and you have the number there, the product number, the item number, and the details on the back there. Again, the same manufacturer we've come to expect for these. And pull the cassette and the paper insert out. Have a quick look at the inside of that. Again, we have the price there, the same price as we've seen previously. And the two sides, what's recorded on this. See there? And the cassette itself, which is another white example here. Side 1 and side 2. And again, this is screwed together this time with the little Phillips or posi drive screws. I think they are in fact posi drive, but anyway, it's the Beatles there. Now, having looked at all these Western bands, the products of all these Western bands, we have here, again, this is actually, I had it up there in portrait, but this is actually, of course, a landscape cover again. Auf der Seidenstrasse from Pond. Now, Pond was an East German group, produced, I think, a couple of albums before reunification, and then continued producing music after reunification as well. But Auf der Seidenstrasse is, I think, the second of their pre-unification albums. I think this was produced in 1985 or 86, and we'll hopefully see inside the details. And one of the tracks on this was used in an MVA film about Grenztruppen, specifically Grenzaufklärer, the border reconnaissance soldiers, border reconnaissance troops, which is a very interesting resource, and that is available on YouTube. And one of the tracks from this features, which is how I came to know of Pond, how I went and looked up their work, and how I was then keen to try and find an original East German produced cassette or even a record of their music, and I managed to find a cassette, which is much better for my purposes because I don't have a record player. We look at the, or don't currently have a record player, I may well do in the future. You can see here we have the details on the spine again. It's Amiga product, stereo, and again you have the item number there. Produced at the same factory as all of the Western music cassettes we have here, and we have a list of the songs there. We'll open this up, have a look at the cassette and the paper insert in a bit more detail. This also came with this almost receipt. I'm not sure what the significance of that is, but that came in with this as well. Put that up there for a moment. That's the inside of the paper sleeve for this, the paper insert. Same price as the other cassettes we've looked at here, so basically a standardized price across all of these. And you can see recorded in late 1985 there, that's the recording date, and then I think this is the publishing date, or the it's actually redaction, Jürgen Latz. I don't know if that 1986 date is a copyright date or something of that nature, but these are recorded across. In fact, you've got dates here specifically for side 2, so some of these were recorded in 86, so this would have been released in early 86 presumably. And it is specifically Abschied or Abschied, I forget the IE or versus EI, but anyway, this track here is the one which features in that Grenzaufklärer film, so quite interesting from that point of view. And this is the cassette we will listen to on an original 70s Philips cassette player. I don't as yet have an East German cassette player. I would like one, but we will listen to this album in full in a separate video, which will literally just be a recording of the cassette player playing this in full. I'll change obviously between side 1 and side 2, and that will be coming out at some point, probably the same day as this, or if not then the day after, all being well, provided I can set up a nice quiet environment for it to be filmed in. So that is, say, quite a prized possession of mine in the East German collection. It's something I'm quite happy to have, and it wasn't particularly expensive, which is nice as well. I think it came with a load of other cassettes, which I wasn't particularly interested in, and I will be moving on, but this I was very happy to have. An original East German band produced a cassette of an East German band's album produced in East Germany, and it'll be interesting to listen to this. I haven't played it yet, so I have no idea how good or bad the recording will be, but keep an eye out for that video going forward. So I do hope you found it interesting looking at these. As I say, do keep an eye out for that video where I'll be playing the album from Pond in full on a vintage cassette player, as I say, and obviously I will put timestamps and so forth on that video as best I can to allow you to navigate through the different tracks on the album. But hopefully that will be of interest, and obviously you'll get that tinny sort of cassette sound. I think it's quite interesting to hear it played from an original East German cassette as opposed to the digital versions which are currently available on YouTube, although obviously if you're actually wanting to properly listen to the music rather than sort of get the vintage experience, I guess you could say, go and listen to the tracks which already exist on YouTube, which are obviously digitally, possibly even digitally remastered, but nice crisp recordings. What you're going to hear in the video which I'm making will be a version with all the issues with an old cassette played through an old cassette player, so bear that in mind. If you have found this interesting and you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. That's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.